Good morning. Welcome. This is Maria Quattrone, and I'm so excited. Today on Be the Solution podcast, we have Karen Briscoe. Welcome, Karen.
Hey, thanks for having me. I love the idea of being the solution, and I am thrilled to be part of your community today.
I wanted to be in a business that I did not have a ceiling. Take a pen and a piece of paper, draw a line, draw another line next to it. At 365 days, if you drew 365 lines, you started here with one line, but look how far you've come.
Welcome, Karen. So let's get right to it and give our listeners some value this morning. So Karen, we met because I was on your podcast, and you have a fabulous podcast called The 5-Minute Success. Why don't you tell us a little bit how that got started?
Oh my goodness. The places my podcast and book have taken me. So, which led me to meeting you. And yes, you were a guest on the March 9th, 2021 episode. So everybody be sure and check out Maria. So 5-Minute Success came about because I had many people, when I achieved a high level success, they wanted to know how I did it. And, you know, that's not unusual. When I had the opportunity to take over the business of a mega agent, and that was in 2006. And then she passed away in 2008. And that's when the markets crashed, right? So yeah. I had a double whammy. I mean, you know, many real estate agents had to learn how to thrive and survive and then thrive in the changing market. But I also had this additional situation happen. And so in telling these stories, when I was coaching, training, mentoring, teaching, people kept saying they were very sticky and memorable. So, you know, if you've been to a lot of training, right? And if you don't remember it so that you can apply it, then it just becomes education, right?
That's right. The education's in the classroom, the training is out on the street.
Yes. And the book, my idea came about because people said they didn't have enough time to do personal development or business development or training or to read books for their benefit. And I said, well, do you have 5 minutes a day? And that invariably everybody said, yes, they had 5 minutes a day. And it turns out, now that I've become somewhat of a time guru over the last 5 or so years, that is actually a principle known as Parkinson's Law. So when you limit and restrict time, you can actually become more effective and efficient. And I know you've experienced this because the day before you go on vacation, well, when we used to go on vacation, and we're going to do it again, but whenever you had some sort of deadline, weren't you really, you know,
more efficient?
Yeah, you got things done, right?
You could pack 1 day, 5 days into 1 day if you wanted to really do that.
Yeah. So it's really energy, not time, because the energy is what is the true fundamental currency of high performance. And Tony Schwartz said that. And so what I found in writing Real Estate Success in 5 Minutes a Day is these stories are sticky and memorable. So, which is important, because if you, again, don't remember it when you need to apply it, it's really just, you know, a great story, but it's just entertainment. So the book is designed to be what many people know as a daily reader. And that's been around in inspirational and motivational religious literature for a long time. But this is the first time it's packaged, a business book packaged as a daily reader. And in the conversations I've had with people who read Real Estate Success in 5 Minutes a Day or listen to it on Audible, and they go, wow, it is true, because chunking it down is you're more likely to remember it. Like if you were to read a traditional real estate book, you know, it may be a tsunami of information, but you're not going to be able to remember it when you need to apply it. I wanted the book to be every day different. You've worked with a lot of real estate agents and salespeople and entrepreneurs, and many have this attribute where they're really always kind of after the next thing, the next shiny object. Squirrel is what we call it, right?
That's right, squirrel.
And that actually is good. It's a good trait because it keeps the high energy and it keeps everything moving. What it can be, you know, challenging is that you don't ever build any wealth of knowledge or experience because you're always off to the next thing. So I was like, okay, well, if the book has every day different, there still are core principles to being a successful real estate agent. What I found is, after interviewing over 350 people on the 5-Minute Success podcast, it applies pretty universally to other sales, entrepreneurs, professionals. And these principles came out of, my success and my learning opportunities, my failures. So those are, the first one is commit to get leads. So you are a master at this, Maria, but the whole idea of business development, prospecting, lead generation, right? Until you have a lead, you don't have anything to do, right?
That's right. You have to be every day smiling, dialing, following up. So commit to get leads. That's number one.
That's number one. So you start there because you have a lead, then you have something to do. Then consult to sell. That's many people in sales call conversion. So that's where you take the lead, the customer client, through a process, do the follow-up until you actually have a transaction, until you have business that takes place, because that's what we are. And even nonprofits, they have to generate revenue in the way of donations. So even nonprofits actually convert, right? Think about it.
Yes, so they're telling their story, they're building their brand. We're all brand builders, or should
we are in some way. We're all doing these principles. So then the next one is connect to build and grow, because what often happens, particularly with salespeople, is they're only as good as their next deal. They wake up in the morning and they go, okay, I got to do it all over again. But there are principles for that.
Yeah, there is. Karen, one of the things that I say is start every day at zero. So pretend like you have no money in the bank, you have no deals, you have no business at hand, and bring to the day that vigor that you would have if you were starting with nothing and not like 50 pendings.
Well, and that is a great principle of this idea that you want to create leverage systems and, actual build something, right? Because at some point, if you're only as good as your next deal, you're going to wake up someday and, there may not be a deal, right? So you have to put the systems in place, and things can happen, right? I mean, who would have known we were going to have a global pandemic a year ago? So if you put in these principles, then you can be prepared. And then what I found is people that are successful, like yourself, people that be the solution, they have this mindset motivation component to their life. They have what I call success thinking, activities, and vision. They have a vision of what they want for their business and life. They think about how to do it, affirmations and planning, and then they actually do it. They go be it. They don't just sit around thinking about it, and they actually do something. And all that leads to the sweet spot of success. So that's the 5-minute success concept in the core principles.
That's fantastic. Why do you think some people do it and some don't, when the opportunity is there for everybody?
Well, I think that they have a why of why they are doing it. So there's some sort of, in the sales, we used to call it fire in the belly. There's something that's driving them internally. It's very, it really has to be internal, because what I found is that externally trying to motivate someone usually isn't as impactful as when they inside themselves want to do it. And I feel like everybody can do it. It's just that many people don't choose not to do it. So that's but the good news is you can do it. And I think that is a great paradigm shift, if you will, or change the way you look at it, because that's a quote by, I think it's, one of the thought leaders. Change the way you look at things, and the way you look at things changes. Because I had that happen to me when I was thinking about writing a book, and I was thinking about it, and I was thinking about it, I was thinking about it. And I went on this personal development retreat with some ladies I'd been doing coaching with, and we were all spending the weekend really deep diving into, one idea that we wanted to do in our life or business, and mine was the book. And I got to that Sunday, we were sharing what was stopping us from doing what we said we wanted to do. And I had this light bulb go off, Maria, and everybody there still remembers it. The light bulb was, the only one stopping me was me. Now, some people might look at that and go, well, first of all, that's very obvious, but it was a huge revelation to me because I kept thinking everybody else was stopping me. My husband, the business, my clients, the market, whatever, my children. I was always like going, oh, well, this is happening. So I need to do that. And I need to take care of them. And I need to do this. And I realized that it was really me that was stopping me. But the good news of that was that I felt empowered because I'm like, well, I can change me. Right. I can't change the market. I can't change any family member or client or whatever, but I can change me. And I changed the way I looked at it. And that led me on this journey. I have to say the one thing, because if anyone in your community is like going, I don't have time to do what I want to do, then there's something else going on there. Time is a created thing. Lazu said this 2,500 years ago. So this is not a new concept. Time is a created thing. When you say, I don't have time, you're actually saying, I don't want to. So why are you saying that? Why are you stopping yourself?
You have to stop and ask yourself that question. A lot of sitting, I think, it's interesting. You said something here that people should pay very close attention to. You went away for the weekend. You stopped. You stopped to think. You stopped to think. That allowed you to realize all by yourself, you realize this, that you were the one not doing what you really wanted to do. You were holding yourself back. I think a lot of times, Karen, we don't stop to think. It's the constant doing. And one of the things that I talk about a lot in my work is the magic happens when nothing is happening. And the magic happened for you when nothing was happening.
And it was really limiting beliefs is what was stopping me. They weren't accurate. They weren't true because I, again, was putting it on other people. I asked my husband, he goes, well, of course I support you writing a book, my business partner and my team. And what I found is it really wasn't time. So this is really something that is really, I found many people, myself included, thought it was not having enough time. So it's not time. If time is a created thing, it's not the amount of time you have because everybody has the same amount. So why does one person get a certain amount of things done and another person doesn't? It's energy. Why? Well, and many people think it's doing some sort of time management strategies or work-life balance. If you think about the idea of work-life balance, it really is, counter if you think about it, because if your work is up, that means life is down. If you're thinking about the teeter-totter of balancing, and if life is up, then work is down. I mean, who wants that? I mean, I want a full life. I want all of my life to be, living my best life. It's like, in real estate, we say you want real estate to be at the highest and best value, where you want and use, and you want yourself to be that too. So this is where my idea of flipping time came about. Because if you remember, back in your psychology days of Abraham Maslow and the hierarchy of needs.
That's right. And
many people work their way up the pyramid. And this is very human, to do this. So the first basic needs are the physical needs. And if you think about the early days of the pandemic, what were people focused on? They were focused on physical needs like toilet paper. Yeah. Well, first
paper
one were
towels.
Yeah, true. At the very beginning, it was like toilet paper, and all the grocery stores are being run over with, people getting food.
Yeah. People buying flour to bake bread.
Yeah. I mean, we're talking about the basics. Then, as you mentioned, safety, security, that is a basic human need. That's the next basic human need. People seek safety and security. That is just an inherent need. And then there's the relationship needs and esteem needs, being accomplished at something and being, esteemed at something. And then there's self-actualization. And self-actualization can mean different things for different people. In Abraham Maslow, he calls it self-actualization. Gay Hendricks calls it the zone of genius. There's also referred to as flow, and Joseph Campbell in his work calls it the bliss, following your bliss. But it's what brings you alive, what makes you uniquely you, what you like. When you're doing that, you are living your best life. And people oftentimes wait until they've done all the other pyramid, and then they get up there and they run out of time. And this became very evident during the pandemic, that people were like really rethinking their priorities, right? They're like, wait a minute, this should be first. And it should. That's what I say. Flip the pyramid. Start with meaningful work, the things that are going to give you energy and feed your soul. And when you do those, then, well, first of all, you're going to be happier, right? You're going to be more authentic to yourself. And if you think about it, if you're living the life you're designed to live, then everything else is going to become better. If your relationships are going to become better, your work, what you contribute to the world is going to have more impact because it's coming from your genuine need and contribution. Your safety. I mean, what's more secure and safe than knowing in yourself that you are living your life to the best that you can, and that physical needs. And when I started doing this, first in a very small way, and I'll talk with people about how to get started, because that's what sometimes the stumbling block to people. But when I started doing this in a meaningful way, my business actually doubled. And I want to stress that, because I know you have a lot of people that are in your community that are in real estate, and I'm a mega real estate agent. And last year our team did 100 million. So I sell a lot of houses. Okay. So my team does. So it's not like I don't have anything to do, right?
No, you're a busy lady for sure, Karen.
Yes,
no doubt.
Busy
350 interviews. You have a full book of business. Yeah. You wrote the book. There's so pretty. You have a lot going on. So how did you
author of 4 books? Well, so back to the 5-minute success. This is kind of came full circle. Really start small and build up. Many people think they want to change the world, first of all, you have to change yourself if you're going to change your world. But they take on too much, and then they get overwhelmed, and then they stop. And the most effective way to to bring about change in your life is to start small and build up. That is what has been proven, because it's really becomes a habit then. And for me, I started by committing to writing. And my commitment was to myself. Every morning I would write. And I am a self-professed non-morning person, or I was then. I am now, but it wasn't easy for me. But I wanted to be true to what I wanted to do, so I was like, okay, well, I have to change something. So I'm going to change this, and it is. Many writers will tell you this is one of the most effective strategies. And I used a time hack. Many people, when the daylight savings time rolls around in the fall. And this is when all this started happening to me. That hour you get, extra hour of sleep you get, you just sleep more or do something else, but you flitter away the time instead of using it. So I know right now is not the fall time of the year. In fact, this is spring forward. So we're going to actually lose an hour. But
we're going to lose an hour on Saturday.
But you can time hack yourself at any time, and you do it when not recognizing that's what you're doing, because every time you change a time zone, you are time hacking yourself. Okay. So put yourself first. And if you either start it in the morning or find a time and time hack yourself, because what I find is that when people start doing this meaningful work or following your bliss, or they're going to be, they can have an impact in a number of ways. One is the ripple effect, right? So you'll start, everything else around you will start rippling out. It'll be better. Some people, they actually snowball, right? So they build on it. They do a little bit and they build on it. Some people, it'll knock over like one domino, and then everything else will just start falling into place. Some people have a bigger impact, more of a, exponential or complete, change. For me, it was more of a ripple and a snowball. I'll be honest. It wasn't.
So what did that look like? And what does it look like for somebody to do that?
Well, what it looks like is you will start to be true to yourself, because what happens is many people are committing for whatever reasons, time or spending time or wasting time or using time for things that don't really matter to them. And when they do that, when you do that over and over again, you start feeling this lack in your life. You may not know what it is. That's what I was feeling. I was actually very successful at the time when I started going, oh my gosh, is this it? I mean, I'm a mega real estate agent. I'm very successful. I love my husband. I have 2 great kids. I have a great life, but this is it. I think there's more for me. And I think you'd probably be a very similar person, Maria, because all the things you're doing, the Be the Solution, all the things you're doing, I'm really seeing that you probably had that.
I had that little light bulb go off for sure. And I had the same thing that happened to you for me in a different way about, oh, it's me. I have self-limiting belief. I had self-limiting beliefs, right? So I'm experienced that. And that's part of, I hope everybody experiences it though, because once you do, you can't go back.
That's the truth. And that's the thing is then it's just strategy and skills and learning how to change behaviors. And you can do all that. I mean, if I can do it, you can do it. That's the beautiful thing about this is It's so empowering. This is not saying to anybody out there, oh, well, you haven't had that experience yet, so you can't have it. You can have it at any time. And you can decide at any time. And I want and I decide over and over again. I'm like, okay, I want to change the way I look at this. And then I can start looking at new ways to looking at it. I did start small. I started to experience the benefits of it mostly in my relationships. People around me started feeling better and they started feeling empowered that they too could be who they were meant to be, right? Instead of doing things that, they felt like they were obligated to do. And then that had this positive effect, right? Because when you're around other people, Jim Rohn said, you are the 5 people you surround yourself with. When you're around other people who are also committed to living their best life, it's very inspiring, right?
It's very inspiring. So the time hacking, you mentioned that and it made me think of something. And when you said we do time hack when we travel across different time zones. And so I was thinking about when the last time, when we go to Italy, it's whatever time there, say 10 a.m., but it's 3 a.m. here, 3 a.m. here. So we don't think that it's, even though our bodies still think it's 3 o'clock, but we get out of the plane, go to the train station, and the train station has this wonderful Mercato. It's called Mercato Centrale, and you can have pasta and wine. It's a beautiful place. And so the first thing my husband and I do is we get an order of pasta, we get a couple glasses of wine, and some other, in Rome, this is in Rome, some other Roman items like artichoke and pizza and stuff. And it's 3 a.m. for us, really. But we said, no, it's not. Now it's 11 o'clock. It's 11 a.m. And this is how you start the Italian adventure, right? So that's kind of a little bit, I think.
That's what you're doing. If you think about it, you can create your Italian adventure at any time. And the other epiphany I had 3 in a row. One was that it's me. And 2, I can time hack and create and make the time to do what I wanted to do. But 3 was this urgency. And because I also find many people put off living their best life. I'm going to do it when the kids go back to school, or I'm going to do it when the kids get out of school, or I'm going to do it when I finish my degree, or I'm going to do it when I have so much business or whatever. And putting it off over and over again is also what holds people back, I find. So the urgency I felt was, I was reading this book by Elizabeth Gilbert, and she wrote Eat, Pray, and Love. Eat, Pray, Love, which is what most people know her for. But she also wrote a book called Big Magic. And the idea of big magic is, in the universe, there are ideas. And when those ideas come to someone and they don't act on them, If the idea is meant to be released into the universe, it will go to someone else. And if you want to increase more ideas coming to you, then act on more ideas because the universe will start going, well, you said no to that one. You said no to that one. You didn't do that one. Well, you must not be into ideas. You must not wanting to change anything. You may want to just everything to stay the same. And so they quit coming to you. And I know you've had this happen, Maria, where you had an idea and you didn't do it and someone else did.
I have had it happen multiple times.
Did you feel regret? Did you feel regret?
I do still feel regret.
So what I decided was I want to live a life of abundance and not regret. I don't want to look back and go, oh, I should have, could have, would have done this. And I didn't. And that's what created the urgency for me to write my book right away. Because again, I was like, okay, I'll write that when I retire. Right. And so I said, no, I have to do it now. And that is when I made that commitment to the universe and said, I'm going to do it now. I'm going to figure it out. I'm capable. I'm creative. I'm resourceful. I'm capable. I'm going to figure it out. I figured out other things. That led to so many other things coming to me. And I realized, again, I was the one that was stopping me. So if you've got people out there and yourself and you're like going, oh my gosh, I'm doing that too. I'm doing that because I'm saying I'm going to do this when or later. And I would, want you to feel this urgency of why now? Because then again, you'll start to experience the benefits of it now, right? Putting it off over and over again is actually a form of, it takes away. It's a form of lack, right? You're always saying there's not enough time. There's not enough money to do what I want to do when you say that over and over again to the universe, to yourself.
Yeah. I recently said there is enough money. I want to buy a building, a commercial building for my company. And it's not cheap here in Philadelphia, as you could probably imagine. And so I said, we can figure it out because we're smart people. And there's lots of people that we know that have millions and millions of dollars, hundreds of $1 million of real estate. So I'm sure somebody will buy into my big idea that I have. But you have to put it out to the universe, right?
Yes. And you have to believe it. I really think that is a key aspect to it, because when you believe it, then other people will buy in your belief, right? And if you don't have enough belief in yourself right now, then, well, first of all, I'm happy to help you believe in yourself. But or look to people who typically do believe in you, right? Look for the people who are your encouragers in your life. My husband always has been. And he says, but I've been saying this for years. And I'm like, I know. And I'm just now listening. I was stopping him. It was, again, me. It wasn't him. So sometimes you just have to, adjust the volume.
So Karen,
I hear you now.
Karen, how did you grow up?
How did I grow up? My father's an entrepreneur in the restaurant business.
See, I was curious about that because I've noticed that people that grew up in an entrepreneurial environment themselves. And did you work in the business with him or?
Oh, of course, yes.
Right.
For many years, all the way through college. My father was brilliant, had so many ideas in some ways. In some ways, he stopped himself. In so many ways, I see that now. And I think he does too. The restaurant business is a very challenging business because if you think about it, I mean, every day you wake up with a perishable product and you have to figure out how to get people to come buy and pay you a small amount of money to all the overhead and the employees and everything. So
yeah, it's no doubt probably one of the toughest industries to be in, the restaurant business. And look what just so experienced in the restaurant business with the pandemic. But you know what? I've seen some restaurants really thrive and be super successful because they changed the way they looked at things. And when the things they looked at, then the things they looked at changed.
Yes. And they pivoted in a way that is, I've said the same thing. My husband and I, during the pandemic, we would go, okay, that person figured it out. I mean, all of us had to figure it out at different levels, right? I mean, even for us, I know in Philadelphia, you all were shut down, but in Northern Virginia, in Virginia real estate was considered essential service. We still had to meet COVID protocols, but we could show and sell houses all the way through the pandemic. But there were a lot of people who are businesses who, had to reinvent themselves, had to reinvent the way they did it. And we all learned and grew and in many ways became better than before, because I was just sharing with my business partner yesterday, Lizzie Conroy, we've been through a lot together over 11 years. And I said, Lizzie, we just did a global pandemic. We can do anything.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, I think that I see two things that have happened. Either people have taken massive action, or they didn't take any. And it kind of shows you like the K-shaped economy recovery of businesses going this and some businesses going down this way, which is very unusual. You have very high unemployment in many areas, and you also have very high level of homes being sold, and expensive ones. So it's the pandemic, different people experienced the pandemic differently.
Yes. And I recognize that this was a very challenging year on many, many, many fronts. At the same time, if you think about what has come out of it, what people have learned and grown from, and in reinventing, like, for example, my parents, who are in their 80s, live in a very small town in Missouri. And my dad would never have shopped on the internet. He just wouldn't have done it. It's not in his nature.
But he's on Amazon now?
No, when Walmart started doing, because they could trust Walmart in their view. When Walmart started online shopping and delivery, my father changed. I mean, a man who's almost 90 years old changed. And I was like, oh my gosh, my dad can change. Anybody can change.
That's right. It's all about how you look at it. It's all about how you look at it.
And many benefits came out of it, because they, the community rallied around that. My mother broke her hip during the pandemic.
Oh boy.
And then she got shingles, which she was just but the community just so much rallied around them. And so there's so many blessings that did come out of it. And so I choose to look at those, because what you focus on expands. And so I choose to look at the things that are the blessings and not focus on what happened that was the challenges of the situation.
I like all your little sayings. I have those too, and
I see that behind you. Yeah, you've got.
Oh yeah. That's my little inspiration. I usually I have a couple different spots that I do the podcast in, depending on the day. This morning I happen to be in my office, so I have my little dream, believe, live, and love, which is, what I believe in is living your dreams and building them and taking the action necessary to do that. And it takes courage. It takes courage. And where did you find your courage, Karen, and saying, I'm going to do this first book? And then, of course, you have multiple books after that.
4 books, yes.
How did it? Yeah. So how did you get the courage? You realized it's you. Now you said I had the courage. Have you written before? Were you a good writer?
I mean, I feel like I actually did have a blog that had what I call a voice, and I had people that were, following and a good following with my blog. So, and I'd had many people tell me my stories were memorable, and they then used them, and then it worked. So that was very affirming. So the courage, if you think about it, it's some of it came out of other success. In fact, I read something about that the other day, that success actually is very self-fulfilling. Okay. So I had been successful in real estate, and I'm like, well, if I can be successful in real estate, then I could be successful as an author. Right. So I'm going to take those skills that work for me, the knowledge, skills, and abilities I had being a successful real estate agent, and I'm going to apply that. And I'm really very good at setting what I call activity blocking. So I activity block my lead gen, I activity block my follow-up with clients, activity block for all the things that I committed to do and want to do for my business and my life. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to just commit to activity blocking for writing. And again, back to the strategy of starting in the morning. When I did that, all the rest of the day, it fell into place. See, this is what happens with many people is they wait to do these things later in the day in most cases, or they don't schedule it in the day, and then their day gets away from them. What I found was when I started to write, I had more inspiration. It goes back to the big magic. When you start to do what you want to do, then more often comes to you. Right?
I've seen that. Yes. Yes. I started a little project and it's like, it's an elephant. I said, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time.
But you have to get started because it's getting started and I think it was Martin Luther King said, you don't see the whole staircase, but you take the first step and then you start to see more and more as you go along. And that's true. So that's what happened with me. And same with the podcast. When I did my first podcast interview was with Pat Hyben with Real Estate Rockstars. He asked me to be a guest because I'm a mega agent, right? And I was about ready to be an author. And I was just I had a speech impediment as a child. So I was like, oh my gosh, I was so nervous. I had all these butterflies. I used that nervousness as energy and said, okay, this is great energy. I'm going to use this to really make an impact with Pat's community. I took all sorts of notes. I was way over prepared. It was really probably looking back, I've grown a lot since then. And then when I decided to have a podcast, that came out of being on other people's podcasts. And I was having all these amazing conversations. I was like, oh, my book, Real Estate Success in 5 Minutes a Day, it already has a great structure for a podcast. And I'll get to have these really incredible conversations with people that, I would maybe in a normal world not have a conversation with. So that's led to so many other things. It's like the Dr. Seuss book, Oh, the Places You Will Go. I would do one thing and then it would take me other places. And I'd go, oh my gosh, this is interesting. Why don't I try this? I would just be curious about it. So that's how a lot of my journey has taken me. In talking about it being a journey, that is part of this Flip Time Love Life book, is it's told as a story, as a journey. Because I want people to see that your life is a journey. And if you know anything about the hero and heroine's journey that Joseph Campbell talks about, he refers to it's very common in literature and movies and everything. If you think about it, you're going to recognize this theme. But people who go on the journey, it's not a one and done. You go out and you come back bearing gifts, and then you go back out again with probably renewed energy and spirit and knowledge that what you learn. And so the more I go on this journey, then the more things, they come to me.
Yes. So I say, you never step in the same river twice.
That is so true. That is so true. And this heroine's journey, many people talk about the hero's journey. It's very common. Like think about The Matrix is the hero's journey, and all the Star Wars movies are hero's journeys. But heroine's journeys, women who have, go out either in a call to adventure or call to contribution or call to creativity, their callings oftentimes are different than men's callings. So that's the other thing about the book, Flip Time Love Life. It's a female journey. It's a heroine's journey.
I can't wait to read that book. It sounds amazing. I'm just curious. You started your podcast 5 years ago, interviewed 350 people, over 350 people, some amazing, amazing people. And I looked down that list and I was like, I was wondering how you got all those people to be on your show. Did you just ask them, like, out of the blue? I'm just curious because I asked people to be on my show, and I'm wondering, maybe you could give me some helpful hints. Well, I definitely do not have all the answers, not even close.
You know, the thing I discovered, you remember when I was telling you I have these skills I learned as being a real estate agent? I transferred many of them. And I was like, okay, well, this is just like lead gen. It's like 80% of the sales is made after the fifth call, particularly the bigger the guest. Sometimes it takes more creative strategies to find them and connect with them. I find there's several key ways to create connections. One is I will find some connection with the person. So I'll find somebody that they know that I know. I will find some way that I know them through something else. Some of it's a little bit of a stalking, if you will. Like I'll become a fan. I think about Gretchen Rubin. So Gretchen Rubin wrote one of the
happiness.
Yes. So she was actually one of my epiphanies. So about the time hack, I got that out of her book, Better Than Before. And there were many other time hacks. That was the one I took away. The Better Than Before came about because she interviewed people for her happiness project. And she was like, well, you all know what would make you happy. Why aren't you doing it? Again, back to why are you stopping yourself? And many people said they didn't have enough time. So the Better Than Before book was just a lot of time hacks. So if you're looking for more strategies, go read that book. So it's been one of my key people in my life that really had an impact. And she is, a celebrity. And so there was an opportunity where she was coming to the DC region to speak. And I upgraded to the one where you actually get to meet the author, right? Get your photo taken with them. So I go up and I meet the author and I go, Gretchen Rubin, I would like to have you as a guest on my podcast. And she said, okay, what's your podcast? And so I told her a little bit about it. And she said to one of her assistants, well, tell Karen how to get a hold of me and I'll be a guest. Well, for whatever reason, the messaging didn't happen correctly, or it was, maybe I misunderstood or whatever, but I ended up just following her on Instagram and just really being very connecting and affirming and sharing why and how she had made such an impact on my life and business. And finally she said, sure, I'll be a guest. So
that's a great story.
Isn't that wonderful? So
you really inspire me, Karen. You've done so many wonderful things, and it just shows you that you could still run a $100 million real estate business team and still have time for all these other stuff, which is then brought you so much more opportunity because you're being true to your authentic self.
Well, and that's the thing is I have to say I was experiencing some burnout before I started what I call my creative endeavors. And I think that's another thing that happens with people, successful people, is they're really good at what they do and then they burn themselves out. And so
we've all been there.
Right? So if you hear yourself here, the way I found is by injecting and inserting and making a priority these energy activities, then I have the energy to do the other things. And I also become more resourceful in figuring out how to do it. They say find a busy person, right? So if you really want to do something, you'll figure out how to do it. If you don't really want to do it, there isn't enough time in the world. That's actually a principle of time. So I know we kind of started talking about time, but this is a key principle of time. And Einstein said it, not me, because time is relative. If you are doing something you don't want to do, you hate, or it sucks the life out of you, like traffic when we used to be in traffic, or boring Zoom meetings, or whatever it is for you. If you're doing it, you are actually, time is going to stand still and is going to just suck the life out of you, right? But if you're doing things that you love and you're with people you love and you're passionate about, time is going to fly by. You will get so much more done, accomplished, doing more things that you love than there is never enough time in the world to do something you don't want to do. There's just not. It won't ever be. So when you change the way you look at that, when you look at time, it is totally relative. It's based on your experience, and it may be different for other people, right? I mean, what feeds my soul is not maybe what's going to be somebody else's cup of tea. And so that's where you have to know thyself, and maybe you just start small. I mean, like I took hip hop classes and I've taken improv classes and I've done a lot of creative endeavors to just spur that energy, because maybe you don't know what it is. So just try a lot of different things.
So you took improv. That's interesting. Is that in the last 5 years or so? Or 10
Oh,
years?
yes. I have to say improv is really empowering for real estate or salespeople. The principle of yes and, when someone says something, right? When you're with something, somebody, a buyer or seller or client or customer or an agent or whatever, and they say something, one of the best things you could do is say yes and. Most of us, that's a key principle of improv. You take what is given you and you figure out how to add to it. And there's so much to that. If you think about most people, they start thinking about whatever it is they're going to say, and their first response is but, right? But blah, blah, blah. When you say yes and, you're affirming the idea is when you're in improv, you're all in it together, right? It's a group. It's not a one-hit wonder show or one-person show. And so you want to build on it. You want it to have energy and grow. And if you say but, you automatically are killing the other person and what their contribution is. So this is a tip to all you salespeople out there.
I've been wanting to do that. In fact, I wanted to sign up before pandemic happened. And then pandemic happened, and I didn't want to do Zoom improv. So pandemic's going to be over very soon. People are getting vaccinated, and a lot of people have had it already. So I'm going to sign up for this improv class. I've taken a class, acting and some other acting things over the years, but it's not been probably for 25 years at this point. So.
Yeah, improv is great because it helps you learn to think spontaneously and to respond to what you're given. Because the other type of acting is you're learning a script and then you're learning how to.
Right. So I did the monologues and all that. Yeah.
And those are great skills as well. But this will
think on your feet.
Yeah.
Right?
And we did it with our team. It is more fun if you could do it in person, I will say, because they'll have you play games together and it'll just be kind of like what you would think of as icebreakers. But you'll learn how to work together as a team. And it was really one of the funnest things we've ever done as a team. We even invited the spouses and we all got to know each other in a totally new way.
Did you have them come to your office?
Actually, we ended up doing that in my home because we wanted to have like an environment that was, more kind of not a business.
Makes sense.
Setting. Yeah. So we did it at our home. But I mean, we were going to do it in the basement of a restaurant and the dates got mixed up. So I just had everybody to my home. But you just need a big enough space for everybody to generally start in a circle is how most of them do it.
Right.
I've done most of my improv in person. I have done some improv by Zoom, and you can still gain a lot of ideas and skills that you can incorporate. But it is one of the best ways as a salesperson to be able to really connect with people. I find it's changed the way I connect with people. It really has.
What do you think's different?
Well, for one thing, that time period, that moment in time where I'm thinking my rebuttal, I guess I have this, I for many years suffered from this phenomenon of having a really strong inner critic.
Oh, I don't know anything about that whatsoever.
Right, you don't? Like I could almost to the level of prosecuting attorney. Like I could take anything and break it down and just tell you what was wrong with it. And I could show you how you could do it better. And I could just like prosecute me too. I did that to me too. I was like, oh my gosh, I was my worst critic. And so I thought I was being helpful. Actually, I really think my intent was good, but I found that people were like, they also then shut down, right? They're like, okay, And so what improv has done is, first of all, I actually have the focus to listen to what the other person says because I have to build on that, right? Instead of think about what I'm going to say, I have to build on what they're going to say.
You have to build on that. And don't you think by doing the podcast, you learned a lot about listening? You've done 350 podcasts. Like, this podcast, there's no questions I'm listening to you. I'm asking questions of what you're saying. So I don't have like a piece of paper with them all written down. So I have to listen. I think you learned a lot. You learned a lot from the podcast too, right?
Oh, absolutely. More so probably being on other people's podcasts. This mic, swap, the pod swap. It is two sides of the same, experience. The one side, when I was interviewing you for the 5 Minute Success, I was learning about you and how you do your business. And it was fascinating. And I'm really glad I did. And it was really great that I did it right before I came on your show, because I know you so much better, right?
Right.
And then the other side of the mic, you see, you're asking me questions, and I am learning some about you, but the exchange is going more. And if you think about it, that's what we should be doing with our customers and clients and the people that we are in relationship with, right? People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care, right? So what's the best way to have somebody know that you care about them, to really listen to what they have to say, and then have an informed response and help them maybe think, oh, well, that happened. So then what about this, right? And that's what you've been doing in this interview. So the pod swap, it's really, I think the richest pod swap, podcasting for me is when I do both sides.
Yeah, I enjoy it. I think that I'm learning a lot about a lot of people that I wanted to get to know and about their business. And it's fascinating because every single podcast that every person I've interviewed, I have taken notes. And that's why you'll see me like I'm looking down. I'm writing. I've taken notes, and I'm like, I am so thankful to have you on today, because you brought the improv back into my spirit, and I know how important that is. And I want to do that with my team. And I forgot all about it. So I believe in the law of
attraction
and things being serendipity. And I don't know. I do put things out to the universe, right? So I'll even say to somebody, I won't say what I want to say because it's bad. And I don't want to put that out to the universe for you. So I don't say it. I know that might sound weird, but I'll say that to somebody else. And I look at them and I'm very serious about it. And I think that people sometimes don't necessarily understand what I mean, but.
Well, I mean, it reminds me of what my mother said, if you can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all.
That's right.
And I think it's a lot of what you're about, be the solution. So if you tell people what's wrong, it's like you're a prosecuting attorney, you're being critical, you're tearing it down. What you're doing for people is you're helping to be the solution. You're helping them, because I think that's what we are as real estate agents or salespeople. We're change agents. People come to us and they want to make a change, right? It's usually real estate. They're moving from one place to another, but they really want to change. And they need us to help be the solution for that. Because if they could do it on their own, well, first of all, it was easy. Anybody could do it. And most people can't do it on their own. They need somebody to help guide them, right? And what we do is we help people focus on where they're going, right? There's a lot of things that have to happen between here and there.
That's right.
But I know that whenever somebody is struggling in whatever, whether they're a buyer or seller or whatever place they are in the real estate transaction or life cycle of housing, when I can help them see where they're going, then we can get back on track, right? Instead of mired in all of the things that, logistics and all of the things that have to happen between here and there. And I think that's what you do for people, Maria.
Yeah, thank you, Karen. We do. And we, especially with not just the buyers, sellers, but the investors, work with a lot of people who make their money. They earn their income for their family by investing in real estate, whether that's in development or that's in rehabs or the BRRRR method. There's so many ways to make a living in the real estate sector, a commercial real estate. There's just right now, warehousing, industrial is very big in our marketplace. I don't know, probably down where you live too, I would think, in the corridor there, that you have a lot of warehousing. I don't know if you get involved in that, but
yeah, I actually started out my career. You thought about maybe starting from here, but I started out my real estate career as a real estate developer for Trammell Crow, and did land development in Texas. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's a big, they're a big outfit.
So I like to tell people I started out of dirt. And,
and then you got on the flip side.
Yes, I have a flip side. The thing was for me when I re-entered the workforce, so I'm back to the beginning. I married my husband, and his career took us to the Northern Virginia, Washington, D.C. metro region almost 30 years ago. And we had 2 young kids, and his career required a lot of travel. And so I, wanted to be, and was given the opportunity, blessed to be the stay-at-home parent. And I'm glad I did. I'm glad I invested those years and the time, but it was challenging. Don't get me wrong. When I re-entered the workforce, I re-entered into commercial. And I thought I wanted to go back into commercial. And I went to work for the Staubach company. They had the Nextel account. And I was in charge of sales, engineering, and warehouse offices. And what I found was, for me, once you've seen one sales, engineering, or warehouse office, you'd see them all. It was, to me, there was nothing. It was just very deal focused, very, legal focused, and it's very, very deal focused.
Yes,
it is.
There's something good about that, and then there's not much excitement to that unless you're getting that big fat check.
Well, yeah, that's true.
There's the exciting part.
But what was happening was that was during the tech bust, and if you know what happens in bust, it's in disposition. There's no money in disposition, and somebody said, "Well, why don't you try residential? You have a real estate license." And many people look at residential as kind of the soft side, right? Like that's all the relationship stuff. Commercial people, they're the deal makers, they're the negotiators, they're the ones that know how to do the financial analysis and strategy and everything. And when I got over to the residential side, I discovered I actually am very good at both. I'm good at the hard skills and the soft skills. And I really did love being in relationship with people and helping them at this critical juncture of their life. And so I've been doing that for almost 2 decades now. And so it was really, I had to change the way I looked at it, though, because if you think about, we've talked about this a number of times, the same person was me, but I changed. And when I started looking at it like how I could be of service and help people in this, critical juncture of their life, I met with success very rapidly, and I really loved having that kind of impact on people.
I love it. I love how you're being the solution, and you're bringing all these wonderful ideas, and your team must love it. They're like, what is she coming up with next?
I think a lot. Sometimes they look at me like, oh, look at what she's doing next.
I know.
Like, that means more things for me to do. And I'm like, oh, I know, but it's called full employment.
That's right.
Karen has an idea, everybody has a job.
That's right, Karen.
When I stop having ideas, I'm like, okay, I'm out of ideas. We don't have anything to do. That's where the job ends, right?
Wow. This has been such a fun time today.
I know.
I learned a lot from you, and I'm excited to continue our relationship and build a friendship with you. So it's been great. Thank you so much for your time. I'm grateful. I'm blessed for it, and I wish you a wonderful spring season in your area and down in Virginia. I'm sure you guys are bustling in real estate, probably lacking inventory.
Yes, we have the same phenomenon here.
Yeah. Philadelphia is not as bad because, we're the city. So, but things are definitely moving faster than they were. But we do have some inventory. We have inventory, 50% though, than last year at this time. So you got to hustle. There's lots of houses out there. You just got to knock on some doors.
Every market has its opportunities.
That's right.
And you just have to look for them, right? You just have to.
Oh, yeah. We're finding them every day.
Yep.
Thank you again. I appreciate it. And we will see you real soon.